This is a slightly different unboxing for my channel today. This is in support of a feature I am writing for Retro Gamer on the New Wave label. If you've not heard of New Wave, spelled N-U-W-A-V-E, it was an offshoot of CRL, founded by Clem Chambers, and as part of my research into that, I decided to try and track down as many of the games as I could. So first up we have Tubular Bells, the Commodore 64. And you can see the New Wave logo on the spine there, and see instructions on the reverse of this inlay. As technology develops, so art forms appear. New science creates revolutionary thought and sparks new ideas. An original concept coupled with an amalgam of past creativity brings an experimental experience. In Tubular Bells, CRL uses the computer as a dynamic framework to combine music with kinetic, interactive, chromo-visual design. The New Wave continues. Music by Mike Oldfield. So, if you've not heard of this before, it's the Commodore 64, and it's basically a light synthesizer similar to the work of Jeff Minter. You have set controls, and it draws lines on the screen. And you see copyright Virgin Music Production publishers there. The Zen Room, which is CRL's in-house programming team, and Clever Music, Graham Jarvis and Robert Hartshorn. And it took a lot of tracking down, but Chris Abbott eventually found out more about them. Front cover artwork by Mark Bromley, based on Tubular Bells, obviously. And so that's an interesting little game in itself. It's the first time Mike Oldfield have been involved in computers, and he would then go on to do interactive exhibits with other albums. So that's that one. And so then this next package is from Dennis at Retro Gamer, and he is a great supplier. As you can see, he's packaged this really well. So it's going to take me a moment to get in here. And again, I was trying to track down more from New Wave, and in total there are only actually 4 releases on New Wave, so it may not have been the most influential company, but all of the games have an interesting story, an interesting idea behind them, and they all fit this sort of idea of New Wave, experimental, unusual games. And the one I don't have at the moment is the MSX version of Deus Ex Machina from Mel Croucher. I don't have an MSX, so I don't really need to buy those, but we have 2 more games here, and they're really well packaged in here, so I'm going to have to pull the packaging to get these separate. So next up is a second game from Mel Croucher, programming by Colin Jones. And Colin also did the MSX version of Deus Ex Machina. So, ID. Before the dawn of human history, a powerful life force was transmitted across the fabric of our galaxy in the form of an electronic personality, ID or id. Its journey terminated on the 3rd planet of the insignificant Sol system, where it tried to obey its instructions not to damage any intelligent life forms by adapting, waiting, forgetting. Its shattered memories are now contained in this computer program. It can exist once more with your help, if only you can get it to trust you. You begin to discover that it possesses a terrifying responsibility and has been affecting human history for thousands of years. It is helpless and must reflect the desires of the human being who controls its present form. And over the centuries, it has been so many different things. You can repair its personality, teach it, learn from it, but beware of its innocence. There will come a time when id must try and take you over. So again, we've got the instruction on the reverse of the inlay. And as the tape, and this is the Spectrum. Instructions. Load. Each time that you load id's memories, different facets of its previous personalities will enter your computer, and then id will learn all about you as you try to bring back its past. By typing save and following the on-screen instructions, you can save the shattered parts of id's memories on your own tape and build up the complete personality for use in later stages of your communication with the being that inhabits your machine. Id will trust you the more you teach it. You'll discover more of id's awesome secrets as this trust grows, until eventually you may discover it yourself. So it's basically inspired by the classic psychotherapy artificial intelligence program ELIZA, in that you type text and talk to the computer and gradually try to solve riddles to reveal the past personalities, the past people that id was, that ID was. And so the end result is you gradually build up your trust percentage, and if you get to 100% and solve everything, you won the game. It's a fascinating little title from the mind of Mel Croucher, and certainly one I've enjoyed playing as research for this article. And then finally we have IQ for the Commodore 64. Now this is really interesting. Intelligence is an intangible world. Is your humanity just the function of a random number generator? Do the 2D beings that fight on the grid have consciousness? How can you be superior to a machine that controls a world better than you can? Where does the reality of IQ cross into your own, and what can it possibly mean? The conflict continues uncaringly. Territories are won against a background of cacophony. You have trained your being, merely a spark in time in a flat universe, and it has conquered all before it. Its next battle could be its nemesis. IQ, the infinite world of the future plane. So this particular title was originally known as Worms, ? Not to be confused with Worms by Team 17, and was published by Electronic Arts. Programmed by David Maynard in the Atari 8-bit, and was then transferred to the Commodore 64. So IQ, super artificially intelligent life. The sail, or worm, appears. The sail will capture areas by leaving trails from point to point. Each point is in the centre of an area. 1 point is awarded to the sail that leaves the last 6th trail in an area. Scores are indicated at the bottom of the screen. You must choose the type of sail, i.e. colour, then start and train. So you can do a new sail, which must be trained, an auto, which is trained by the computer during a game, or wild, which has random attributes, or the same used again. So you can have 1 to 4 players, but you don't actually press anything, do anything. It's all, again, it's all artificial intelligence based on rules. So if you look at the grid here, I just managed to drop the tape. If you look at the grid here, the worms move along a diagonal path and gradually fill in the triangles and hexagons, and that's how you score points. So they're originally called Worms, based on a scientific paper, and David Maynard also featured in one of the first adverts for Electronic Arts, which is the famous We See Further campaign, where they were promoting and celebrating the people creating the games, a bit like Activision did, a bit like the early ethos of Electronic Arts was to celebrate the people who made the games as much as the games themselves. And so it's fascinating to talk to David about the game. He's done a new version called The Worms, which is online. I'll leave a link in the description. And that is the free games that I own from New Wave. Hope you enjoyed this, which was a very different video, thanks to Dennis and the eBay seller who sold me Tubular Bells. And keep watching my channel for more retro unboxing, merch stand, retro shelf, gameplay videos. I may find time to add some gameplay footage from these titles to the channel shortly as a companion video. And like, share, subscribe, support me on Ko-fi, and keep it retro.